I discovered my fiancé was cheating with my sister just 2 days before our wedding. My revenge at the altar left everyone speechless. Hey Reddit. 2 days before my wedding, I found out that my fiancé, Jake, had been cheating on me. And not just with anyone, with my own sister, Emma. The betrayal hit me like a truck, knocking the air from my lungs and leaving me in a haze of disbelief. I had been head over heels in love with Jake, convinced that we were meant to be, that our love was the kind that could withstand anything. But nothing could have prepared me for the sight of him and Emma tangled up in each other, completely oblivious to the world around them. It happened on a night when I decided to surprise Jake at his apartment. We had spent the past few weeks stressed with wedding preparations, and I thought a spontaneous visit would bring a smile to his face. I had no idea that I was about to have my entire world shattered. When I walked in, the sound of laughter and hushed whispers filled the air. My stomach twisted in knots as I made my way toward the bedroom, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. Then I saw them, Jake and Emma, wrapped in each other's arms, whispering sweet nothings like they were the only two people in the world. I didn't scream. I didn't even make a sound. I just stood there, frozen in place, watching as the two people I loved most in this world betrayed me in the worst way possible. When they finally noticed me, their faces turned pale. Emma jumped out of bed, scrambling for her clothes, while Jake stammered out my name, his voice filled with panic. But I didn't need to hear his excuses. I turned on my heel and walked out, feeling the weight of heartbreak press down on me. The next 24 hours were a blur of pain, anger, and betrayal. I cried until my eyes burned, but then something inside me shifted. I wasn't just sad, I was furious. How dare they do this to me? How dare they throw away everything we had built together? That's when the idea hit me. I was going to make sure they regretted ever crossing me. The wedding was still on, and I was about to put on a show that no one would ever forget. The morning of the wedding, I kept my composure. I smiled at my family, acted like the blushing bride everyone expected me to be. Jake had tried to call and text me dozens of times, but I ignored every single message. Emma had the audacity to act normal, as if she hadn't just destroyed our bond beyond repair. But I had a plan, and I needed everything to go perfectly. As the ceremony began, I walked down the aisle with a confidence I didn't know I possessed. Jake stood at the altar, looking at me with desperate eyes, probably wondering why I hadn't confronted him yet. The guests were oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. But then, just as the officiant asked if anyone had any objections, I raised my hand. A collective gasp filled the room, and all eyes turned to me. I took a deep breath and let the truth spill out. I told everyone what I had discovered 2 nights ago, how Jake and my own sister had betrayed me in the most unforgivable way. Gasps turned into murmurs, and then into outright whispers of shock and disgust. I turned to Jake, watching as his face drained of all color. Emma, sitting in the front row, looked like she wanted to disappear. But I wasn't done yet. With a satisfied smirk, I reached under my veil and pulled out my phone. I had taken the liberty of recording a little evidence. Messages between Jake and Emma, late-night rendezvous they thought I'd never find out about. I held up my phone for everyone to see, scrolling through the damning texts and photos, making sure there was no room for doubt. The room erupted in chaos. My mother burst into tears. My father turned to Emma with an expression I had never seen before, pure disappointment. And then, the final blow. I turned back to Jake and said the words that would haunt him forever. Jake, I was ready to spend my life with you. I trusted you, but you ruined that the moment you betrayed me with my own sister. So here's my answer. No, I will not marry you. And Emma, I hope it was worth it, because you just lost a sister forever. With that, I dropped my bouquet and walked out, my heart racing with adrenaline. But just as I reached the doors, I turned back one last time. Jake was standing there, shell-shocked, his world crumbling before his eyes. Emma was crying, our mother shaking her head in disappointment. And the guests? They were stunned, some even applauding. I walked out of that church with my head held high, knowing I had just taken back my power. But this wasn't the end. No, the real fallout was just beginning. The moment I stepped out of that church, a rush of emotions hit me all at once. Anger, heartbreak, relief. But more than anything, I felt free. I had just exposed the two people who had betrayed me in the most humiliating way possible, and I didn't regret a single second of it. As I walked away, I could hear the murmurs, the gasps, the disbelief spreading like wildfire inside the venue. The weight that had been crushing me for the past 2 days was finally lifting, and for the first time, I felt like I was in control. But the real aftermath was just beginning. By the time I got back to my apartment, my phone was blowing up. Family members, friends, even people who weren't at the wedding were reaching out, demanding details. Some were furious at Jake and Emma. Others were in shock, and a few were actually proud of me for what I had done. My mother left a tearful voicemail, begging me to talk to her. My father, who had always been the quiet and composed one, sent a simple text, "Proud of you. Take your time, but call me when you're ready." Jake, on the other hand, was relentless. Dozens of missed calls, messages filled with desperate apologies. "Please, just talk to me. I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. It was a mistake. I love you, not her. Please, we can fix this." And the most pathetic one of all, "I was going to tell you after the wedding. I just didn't know how." As if that was supposed to make things better. As if knowing he had planned to marry me while sneaking around with my sister made his betrayal any less disgusting. I blocked his number without hesitation. Then there was Emma. Unlike Jake, she didn't flood me with apologies. She sent one message, short and to the point. "I messed up. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope one day you'll understand. I never meant to hurt you." I stared at her words, my hands shaking with a mix of rage and sadness. My own sister, the girl I had grown up with, shared secrets with, defended against bullies. She had looked me in the eye so many times over the past few months and never once showed a hint of guilt. There was no apology in the world that could fix what she had done. For the next few weeks, the fallout was brutal. Word spread fast, and our family was completely divided. My mother was devastated, torn between her daughters, but she didn't excuse Emma's actions. My father, on the other hand, was furious. He cut Emma off completely, refusing to speak to her. The rest of the family took sides. Some believed I was right to expose them. Others thought I should have handled it privately. But I didn't care. I had spent too long being the nice one, the one who always put others first. This time, I had chosen myself. Jake's life crumbled fast. His family, who had adored me, turned against him. His parents were humiliated, his friends disgusted. I later found out that his boss, who had been at the wedding, heard about everything and decided he wasn't the kind of man they wanted representing their company. He got demoted, then eventually fired. As for Emma, she became the black sheep of the family. Our father refused to acknowledge her, and most of our relatives distanced themselves from her. She lost friends, respect, and the trust of almost everyone who mattered. The worst part? Jake didn't even stay with her. Whatever twisted fantasy they had been living in quickly crumbled once the reality of their actions hit them. They tried dating for a while, but it didn't last. Their relationship had been built on lies and betrayal. How could it ever survive? Months passed, and I focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, reconnected with old friends, and even started therapy to process everything that had happened. It wasn't easy, but every day, I felt a little stronger. One evening, as I was sitting in a cafe, sipping on my coffee, I heard a familiar voice. I turned, and there he was, Jake. He looked rough, like life had chewed him up and spit him out. He hesitated before approaching me, his expression filled with regret. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice quieter than I had ever heard it. I stared at him for a long moment, remembering everything he had put me through. Then I took a slow sip of my coffee, met his eyes, and simply said, "No." And with that, I turned away, feeling lighter than I ever had before. Because for the first time, I wasn't carrying the weight of his betrayal. He was, and he would have to live with it for the rest of his life.